Court-martial involving civilians must immediately cease.
The Supreme Court decision on the General Court-Martial has lowered lawyers to further interpret the law. The decision by the Supreme Court was to be implemented immediately, which has not been done by the relevant authorities.
The Supreme Court has been very clear that our orders were easy to read. They were self-executing. We terminated anything about that court. The bits and pieces which the Supreme Court talked about are those for the DPP to look at and formulate an opinion on whether actually there can be a matter which can be not transferred, a matter which can be taken to civilian courts instead of having been taken to the military court.
Recently, Dr. Kiiza Besigye's legal team filed a habeas corpus application to have him freed, which has failed.
That the Supreme Court was not the court under which these people are tried, would not give orders of release. That's why it did not give those orders. That's what people expected, that the Supreme Court would have said these people be released immediately. It said the decision handed down will operate, it takes immediate effect. What was that decision? That anything about that court, to be very precise, was wrong, void ab initio. That is why it discussed whether the decision acts retrospectively, even those, the first person who was charged under that law, it was a wrong thing to do.
Dr. Kiiza Besigye, who is in Luzula government prison, also faces charges of inciting violence before Uganda Road Chief Magistrates Court.
A DPP cannot rely on evidence of investigations by the military. If they want to commit an illegality which has a face, that is where probably, because then that is what the law says, that someone is released unless the person is held again on fresh charges. So I'm asking myself what those fresh charges would be.
His legal team says holding Dr. Kiiza Besigye in prison without any pending charge against him violates his rights.
And if charges have, for example, the retired Colonel Dr. Kiiza Besigye, would you go back to Greece? Would you go back to Switzerland? Would you go back to Nairobi? Would you replant a gun there? Because everything, the chain of evidence, everything about that charge was extinguished. It was destroyed. Because a DPP cannot rely on evidence of investigations by the military.
As the lawyer, how is his health status right now?
The prisons are in panic. The panic in their voice was very loud. But now they think anything could happen. It tells you the situation. They contacted family and contacted the legal team. Practically, you know, someone in a wheelchair but still lifted. You can imagine. He's emotive as of yesterday.
But what is the lawyer's call to those responsible for the detention of the accused?
We only advised government that you follow our advice. Our advice is, if you want anything about that court, go back to Parliament, amend the law, and then you can have business with that court. You cannot continue holding people on orders supposedly emanating from a court which is non-existent.
Deborah Namamonde, Viola Nansubuga, UBC News.